Welcome to Uncopyable Women in Business. I'm Kay Miller, also known as Muffler Mama. I've been the #1 salesperson in a male-dominated industry, a successful entrepreneur for over 30 years, and now my mission is to help you build a business and brand nobody else can compete with. If you're ready to break out of the pack and create your own uncopyable advantage, stay tuned. My guests and I are here to help. Okay. I am excited about my guest today, Lynn Hidy, founder of UpYourTelesales.com and the author of the brand new Mastering Inside Sales Leadership, which is launching January 8th, 26. We're recording in December of 2025, so it's coming right up. Lynn brings decades of real sales experience as well as practical leadership strategies that work. Lynn, welcome to the podcast.
Kay, thank you so much for having me today.
This is going to be a fun conversation. We've been chatting a little bit beforehand, and I actually met you through Women Sales Experts, a group that we both belong to and that we're very excited about. So it's extremely exciting that you have a brand new book coming out. If you're watching on YouTube, or if you'd like to watch on YouTube, I have a printout of the cover because it's not out yet. And it's called Mastering. Let's see, I've got to read the exact title. Mastering Inside Sales Leadership, Your Get It Done Leadership Success Guide. So we're talking about inside sales, which is a different animal than outside sales. Although I think outside sales includes both. But let's talk a little bit about your background and how you decided to bring these concepts to the market in the form of a book.
So we talked about the fact that you come from an outside sales world. I have never been an outside sales. I've always been an inside salesperson, responsible for the entire sales process as an individual contributor. It's, have I visited with customers and done outside stuff? Of course I have, because welcome to the world. But primarily everything has always been virtual, right? Started out 30 years ago on the phone. I was telling the story the other day to someone that I remember the first time we accepted a faxed purchase order. The guy I was working for actually called his lawyer to see if it was a legally executable document. Now somebody will take an email. So,
and you know what? Just have to add, now everyone listening knows that we're old.
Well, you know what? I'm okay with that.
I am too. I remember the facts well. So
that was better than having to wait for the mail run. So that was the beginning. But I've always said I'm never writing a book. I'm never writing a book. I'm never writing a book. The forward is by Colleen Stanley, who is also a member of our Women Sales Experts group. And every year at the event, she'd be like, you have a book in you. I'm like, I'm not writing a book. So I will say that two things happened that are different now. So number one is that I've had an inside sales leadership course, which happens to have 12 modules in it, aka 12 chapters in my book. Mm-hmm. So Bryn Tillman, also a women's sales expert, there's a theme here, earlier this year said, Lynn, you have this course. You just have to turn it into a narrative. I'm like, you say that like it's easy. And what I ended up doing is took the course and had AI pull all of the things I've written since I started doing this kind of thing and said, pull every link of all of the content I've ever written about vision. Pull the content about leadership. So I took what I've already written.
I'm holding up the table of contents. It sounds very familiar.
So I took the course and everything I've ever written about the topic and started to work from there. So that is the only reason that there is a book, is that because we have a tool now that can take things that you've already written and the research part of it was overwhelmingly daunting to me. So I used a tool, and then of course you have to say, okay, how does this all fit together and write it as a consistent and consolidated narrative. also pull stuff out, right? In a course, in a 12-session course, there's repetition because you go over the things you just went over. In a book, you need to not do that because they just read it. So there was certainly effort involved to get it into a book, but there's nothing out there that I could find since before COVID, when the world really changed from an inside sales perspective, right? Like the tools that are now available readily for people are so different, but I didn't find anything that was almost a playbook feel, right? So this book truly comes from the course. So this is made for people to do something with it, not just consume the information.
I love that it's actionable. And I just read a statistic, and of course, you and I are both leaders of courses, but people that just go in and watch courses on their own rarely act on them. And it's like you say, you go by and then it's done. But a book you can keep referring to. I have to give props to Bryn and Colleen Stanley. They've both been on the show, and I just interviewed Colleen Stanley about her new book, The Mentor. Be the Mentor Who Mattered, which is excellent. And she talks a lot about asking people to be mentors. I've asked you that. I just asked you that, and you were glad to help. So don't be afraid to ask. But they also encouraged you. I love women encouraging women. That's what the podcast is about. That's what Women's Sales Exchange is about as well. And the book, you can download an excerpt, and we'll talk about how to do that. But the content is great, and definitely tools you can use in any type of sales situation. Things like that we're going to talk about. So let's talk about the first one that we mentioned, which is the vision, right? Vision only for inside sales. People don't always think that makes sense.
And I would even say that I think we each need to have vision about our careers. I think too often careers happen like dominoes. Like you start doing something and then the next thing comes along and then the next thing comes along and then the next thing comes along. But if you don't figure out what you want it to look like, what ends up happening is you just do the next thing that someone else thinks you should do.
And blown by the wind.
Well, and not my quote, but you end up shoulding all over yourself, right? I should do this, I should do that, I should do this. And that is too bad. But I think that when we think about inside sales and creating a vision for the inside sales team, what that means is that you're taking the organization you are in, because obviously it probably has a vision, but look at how you can be seen from the organization's perspective as vital to the success. Whether you are setting appointments for outside salespeople or you are doing the entire sales process, which is very typical in kind of a SaaS tech kind of environment where there's only inside salespeople, right? A lot of times. You really figure out it's the GPS for your group. It's showing where you're going. And I always tell this story, right? So if you and I walk outside, jump in the car, and we drive for an hour, where do you end up? An hour away, right? Like an hour away from where you are. So maybe it's interesting, maybe it's a dead end. Regardless, it might be 2 hours from where you actually wanted to go. If you just get in the car and drive. If you don't have a vision, you're not going anywhere. And that ends up being the hamster wheel with a headset kind of world that no one wants to live in.
Well, and in the book, you talk a lot about leadership, and you're talking to leaders as well. I loved your concept. You were talking about leadership versus management. And to me, the vision part fits in so much better, I guess I'll just say fits better with the leadership side, where you're really leading and inspiring people instead of just managing the tactics. So
Yeah.
how do you feel like that plays into getting your team to be more successful, more happier and better?
And so my definition, right? Like, you lead people, you manage tasks and things, right? That's the difference. So if you can't explain where someone's going, they can't necessarily buy into going there with you. And yeah, the vision also helps with management because it tells people why they're doing something.
And why is a big important factor. And of course, it's now, everyone says it. Simon, how do you say his name? Sinek, whatever. He had the big TED Talk with why. But that really is, even in sales, I talk about getting people to buy versus selling them. We want to have a why. Every person wants to feel important. And in my most successful positions in outside sales, there's the carrot and the stick. And I was always led with a carrot, with you're doing a great job. How can we do better? And I became the number one salesperson, so I like that whole vision oriented, more positive than, just pressing down on those goals, which of course we have to do too. So,
and again, if you can tie, so getting really deep into things, if you can tie the vision to someone's personal why, even too often in sales, I think people are like, well, they're money motivated. Almost no one is money motivated. Now, many salespeople are motivated by what they get from making more money, but it's not about the money is monopoly money in sales, right? It's just counting how you're doing. But what you get, what understanding the what do they get out of their own success is also hugely critical.
I love the way you put that, because we do, you talk about, money is a motivation, of course, but you often hear, maybe outside of sales types of roles, that, feeling good about your contribution, that you're important, all of the things of being valuable are as important as the money. But you're really connecting the money to the why, in the fact that you can decide what you spend your money on. It can be a dream home. It can be a college career, college education. It could be a vacation. So that's great. I love the way that you are saying, okay, take that a little bit deep, go a little bit deeper in that.
And that's right from my experience coaching salespeople myself, where, okay, they give you the answer that they're supposed to. So salespeople are very, very good at selling, right? So when you ask them as a leader, like, what do you want? They're always going to say something like, oh, I want to hit 1 million, or I want to be on President's Club, right? They're giving you the correct answer. And if you say, oh, what do you get when you hit that number? What do you get for yourself when you get there? I tell people in the book and in real life, right? You then ask, what else? Is there anything else? Until they're annoyed. Because when they start to sound a little bit annoyed, you probably are at the thing they really want. And maybe that's financial security, right? Maybe that's paying off debt. Maybe that's a new home. Maybe that's they want their kids to not have to worry about college, right? Like, whatever the thing ends up being that you find out is going to help you lead them and manage them. Because if you tie the tasks and things they're supposed to be doing for their job to the thing they want to achieve themselves, it's hard to get pushback.
That seems really brilliant, and maybe not complicated, but I think it's really taking this thought process to a new level. And I think we all get caught up in our own worlds. And of course, sales leaders have pressure and all of that.
Yep.
But if you just respond to the numbers, dollars, whatever, instead of doing what you're talking about, why? What's the meaning behind this? Maybe you want to start a charity. I don't know. Money can be a very good thing, but it's not just the money. Like you said, what will the money do for you? So a great thought. And I hope the sales leaders listening pay attention to that. And of course, all of us, salespeople in whatever business we're in, it's not just about the money that we earn. It's what are we going to do with that? What does it mean?
Yep.
Let's shift into something else you talk about in the book. And that is a fascinating way of looking things. The salesperson value calculator. Why don't you tell us about that?
So anyone who's worked in corporate America has worked with someone who really wasn't someone they wanted to spend time with. When you look back, they may suck all the energy out of the room. And they might be super successful. And in sales, right, almost always success is tied to result, right? Okay, they're the top performer, but everyone would prefer not to be in a room with them. Are they really as valuable as you think they are? So what the sales, the short version is results plus the effort they put in divided by the PIA factor. Yep.
And I know what PIA is. I hope you are listening.
Pain in the
ass. I think we can say that. I have a clean rating, but I think ass will be okay. So PIA is pain in the ass.
So, but that's a divisor, right? So the results are important and the effort is important. But if there's somebody that sucks all the energy out of a room and off your team, they may be the difference between everyone else not wanting to come to work. And okay, is it scientific? No, I am not a scientist. Do I have a study telling you that this works? I know anecdotally that if you take someone's results and add in how much effort they're putting in to continue those results and divide it by their value to the organization, a mid-tier person who is a motivator on your team is more valuable to you than someone whose effort is there and results are there, but nobody wants to be in the room with them. The support staff wishes they didn't work there. Everything is a raised voice, house on fire, emergency that happens in their world, and that translates into the whole organization. And they are less valuable to you than you think.
So I think what you're saying, yeah, even if you have a rock star, superstar at bringing in the sales and the results, but it brings everyone else down. So the net results are less. Even if you got rid of that superstar, as you said, if that's not a team player that works well with others, that brings them up, that helps the energy. This is a really insightful way of looking at this, because I think we do get caught up in saying, oh, this person, oh my gosh, they're just knocking it out of the park, and the rest of us, whatever. Well, that doesn't help you if it brings down the rest of the team. That's good.
And there's certainly, listeners, before you fire somebody because you just heard this, there's a whole section in the book about can't, won't, don't know how, which is a methodology developed by Dr. Hannah Rudstrom of Cornell University's Department of Industrial Labor Relations that she lets me use. You also can look at, okay, why are they the way they are? And figure out if it can change. So don't think that just go fire people, but look at, okay, is the results, is the effort, is whether they're a PIA, what's the reason behind those things? And are they either manageable or fixable.
Well, that's a good point. And yeah, don't fire people because, who knows why they're like that? Maybe they're feeling some type of pressure. Who knows what's going on? So that's a great point. Work with someone first and see if they can change, if they realize what's going on, if they can become more of a team player. Yeah, unless you talk with someone and figure out what their why is. Why are you being a PIA? Maybe there's a reason. Yep. And it's like sales. It's always easier to keep a customer than get a customer. And
it costs a lot to hire somebody. So I worked for someone once that said, if the old saying is marry in haste, and then,
I don't remember the rest of that. I hate to say it.
Yeah, well, but, so hire carefully so you don't have to fire quickly. So
okay, sounds like there's a cuss word in there that we're avoiding or something.
We are. We might be.
Okay, that's true. It's true. It's a big commitment, and it's better for everyone if you work and make everyone better. Of course. So that's more of a win-win for sure. Let's talk the third thing, and I'm hoping we can kind of get back to the AI thing in your book if we have a minute. But let's talk about your bell curve manifesto. I love that.
Okay, so the bell curve. Hopefully all of your listeners have seen what it looks like. When you think about a sales organization, the top 13% outside kind of the bell demand your attention when they need it, right? They are your rock stars from an effort and results perspective. They're going to demand that you help them when they want your help. The bottom outside 13% outside the bell curve, HR is demanding that you spend time with them, right? They're on a PIP. Everything needs to be documented. Please make sure the notes are in the system so that if we need to fire them, we have cause, right? So the top and the bottom, you end up spending an awful lot of your time, and the 68% in the middle is good enough, right? And again, if we want to get math about it, on the high side of the bell curve, 34% are routinely making goal, right? They're going along. They don't demand your attention and you don't give it to them. The bottom half, right, the 34% right on the other side of the bell curve, they're making goal probably inconsistently. But again, if they're not a PIA, it's good enough. So you're probably spending the majority of your time with people at the very top and the very bottom. And these people in the middle, now, they're not necessarily ever going to become your next rock star. But what if you take the entire middle and raise it up so that the baseline in the organization is higher? And, I was talking profit margin, like, what if the baseline profit margin number right now, and I use easy math because I'm not a math person in my head, is $20,000. Okay. What if the baseline all of a sudden is 30 for that middle 68%? That is an exponential growth factor in your organization. And it usually doesn't take that much because you've been ignoring them because you can. Again, you're not doing it on purpose as a leader or a manager, but they're not demanding your attention. No one is demanding you give them attention. So at the end of the day, between the demands of the top and the bottom and all the fires that you're trying to put out, they just get lost in the shuffle.
Interesting. They're not making waves. They're doing their job. They're not even phoning it in, but they have
They're okay. They're okay. Yeah.
They're okay. So what a huge opportunity to lift that section of people up. And as you said, exponentially, if you do it for multiple people.
Yep.
And instead of working, with the most difficult or the whatever. Yeah, I think that's I think that's what you're implying. It's ignored.
Yeah. And again, I am not in any way saying that people are doing it on purpose, because I don't think they are. I think there is 60% of the people on your team make up the true middle, and that is where the magic lives. If you give them a little bit more attention, a little bit more time, a little bit more of you, helping them, you figure out what they need to be just that much better, right? Again, what if somebody who makes goal half the time all of a sudden makes goal 8 out of 12 months?
And I know that's something you have talked about consistently. What if your salespeople make goal one more quarter?
One more quarter.
And as I said, I was boasting about being the number one salesperson, but really, how much of the organization's sales did I represent? Not very much compared to all those other salespeople. So I love this concept.
So it really is this middle group, they're not maxed out, right? So you're not trying to get blood from a stone, which is sometimes true of your rock stars, right? They are doing everything they possibly can. There's nothing to squeeze out. But those middle people, they're consistent, they're predictable, and totally forgettable because they don't make waves or win content.
And they have so much more potential.
Gifts. Raise them up.
Raise them up. I have reminds me of a song, which I'm not going to sing. Raise me up. Okay, I say again. Mastering Inside Sales Leadership is your book. I love this. Your Get It Done Leadership Success Guide. I think you listening can tell how valuable this is, really, for every leader and any salesperson or business person. I think will obviously get something out of this. We are all in a position at some point to lead someone. As Colleen's book, we talked about mentoring. So, but especially for your sales leaders, is there talk about where people can download an excerpt out of this book, and then
making it as easy as possible. MasteringInsideSalesLeadership.com. I went on a limb, and the title of the book is the website. There's an excerpt there now here in December, and on January 8th there will be where you can buy the book. There will be an ebook, an audiobook, which if you like my voice, you'll hear me reading the book to you, and a paperback copy, depending on how you consume your media.
That's great. I recommend this book. I love what I've read so far and heard so far. We aren't going to get into that AI discussion, but maybe another time, because there are so many people that would love to write a book, and you found a very creative way to gather your own content and repackage it. And of course, tons of editing. That's the big thing about AI. AI is a starting place.
How about this? It was truly overwhelming to me to look at 20 years of content and sort it by chapter, right? Like that. For a human to do that was just over crazy whelming to me. So the fact that I had a tool now that would do that work for me. And again, to your point, did it get it completely right? No, but it at least got me to the point where I had more narrative than I had before I had done that.
Congratulations on putting this together and writing a book. It is really, I've done it, and I did it before AI. Talk about overwhelming. That is a great job. It is really, really a big task. And so many people listening say, I would love to write a book, and you should, but be warned. It can be very daunting, with or without AI. Lynn, this has been such a fun conversation. I love the way you look at things a little bit differently, and that's very fascinating to me, really valuable. We will put the links to the free download and other links to get in touch with you in the show notes. And so I'll just wrap it up and say thank you, Lynn, so much for being on the show.
Thanks, Kay. It was great to talk to you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Uncopyable Women in Business. If you enjoyed it, please follow, rate, and review the show. And be sure to visit beuncopyable.com/K. Always remember, be uncopyable.